You're watching PowerNation.
Today, we are starting literally a brand new project, that of which you have never seen before, and we're going to build it in a way that's never been built before. Sure, it's going to have the off-road recipe of big tires and wheels, lift kit, few bolt-on go-fasters, but that is just the beginning.
Oh yeah, we here at Music City Trucks are no strangers to all types of off-road rigs from mild to wild, but this one is going to present some unique challenges that are going to have us building on a whole new frontier. Specifically, this 2025 Nissan Frontier Pro-4X. The Nissan Frontier was introduced as a replacement for the Nissan hardbody truck in the US market in 1997.
The new 2025 Frontier is boldly going where it's never gone before, with Nissan unveiling major updates, including a redesigned exterior and a host of modern technology features. And what we've got our hands on here at Music City Trucks has literally just rolled right off the assembly line. Now, since our friends at Nissan are right up the road right here in Music City, this isn't the first time that we've helped them come up with a one-of-a-kind off-road rig. PowerNation and Nissan have teamed up before to build a pretty cool off-road rig in the past. The 2017 Nissan NV Cargo X. That thing stood 7.5 feet tall, had 35-inch tires, and was powered by a 5.0-liter Cummins turbo diesel V8. We took that one-of-a-kind off-road rig on a few dusty trails in Arizona's National Forest. But for our build, we're not going to go quite that extreme, but it's going to be equally unique in mind. And now, we've once again teamed up with Nissan to revolutionize the way you spend your leisure time, whether it's off-roading on a dusty trail with your buddies, or kicking back, grilling out, tailgating on game day.
But what if you wanted to do both at the same time? Well, when we get done with this truck, you'll be able to trailblaze all day and tailgate all night in this project that we're dubbing the Nissan Trailgater.
The Pro-4X has always been known for its off-road prowess. Comes with off-road tires, skid plates, and even a locking rear differential. Those trucks are often praised for the versatility, which makes them popular amongst blue-collar guys and even weekend warriors. With a 3.8-liter V6 pushing 310 horsepower, along with some off-road performance shock absorbers, this Frontier literally comes out of the box to overcome any terrain you may encounter, along with all the necessary components to add on all the cool extras you may need to build your perfect trailgating truck. And this collection of Nismo parts you see spread out across the floor is just phase one of this build, including performance exhaust, running boards, eye-blazing off-road lights, and some all-terrain tires that are going to complete the ensemble of one mean green off-road machine.
For phase two of this project, we're going to bed, or going to town on the bed. Back here, we're going to install our cooking station, not one, but 2 TVs, a sound system, everything you need to tailgate like a true fan.
And finally, we're ripping out the back seat of this thing and adding a few kitchen appliances, including a refrigerator, slide-out drawer, maybe a coffee maker or two if there's time.
But there's a lot of steps in the way before we get to that point, and the first one of those is to get this up on the lift, get it tore down.
Well guys, we are ready to kick off our Nissan Trailgater build by initiating phase one. Gonna get these tires and wheels off and see what we can do about lifting this thing's spirits. Don't think I'd ever make it on a NASCAR team. Come on, big guy. There we go. A mistake a lot of guys make when they're putting in their first lift kit is not realizing that you need longer brake lines to make up for that extra height. We didn't run into that issue on this project, but it's just always something to keep in mind. And take a look at that. That is a sharp looking assembly right there. It's gonna give us a little bit extra ride height, nice aggressive stance, probably a much smoother ride too. Let's go ahead and get the rest of this stuff put back together. Now this right here is one of the first rookie mistakes a lot of guys make when they're doing their first lift kit. You gotta realize that your brake lines only got so much length to them, so just make sure you hang them up, or you take your caliper completely off, or whatever you gotta do, because you don't want to tear that hose. Like Tina Turner used to say, be good to me. All right, I got just a couple more things to button up, then I'm gonna kick over to the other side. And while I do that, Eric's gotta tackle the rear.
Now, just like Joel did up front, we're gonna be replacing our shocks here in the back. Not that there's anything wrong with these ones that came from the factory, but we definitely need to give them an upgrade with what we plan on doing to this truck. Overall, this is just a common sense upgrade that is super easy because it came straight out of the Nismo catalog, so you know for sure it's gonna bolt right in. Let's get them installed. There we go. Now, I did leave the band on because generally when you put new shocks on, that band will actually hold that shock tight enough for you to get the top end put on. Then you can cut that tie and the bottom will just slide itself into place. But in this case, since these shocks are meant for a slightly raised ride height, they're already a little bit longer than the factory mounting with the rear end at full droop. Now here's something I just noticed that I really got to give props to Nissan for, and that is these lower shock bolts, the threads actually don't go all the way through. So if you need to give them a tap to get them in or out, you really don't have to worry about messing up your threads, and that is pretty smart if you ask me. The next step is to get our remote reservoirs mounted to the body of the main shock. And what we're going to do that with is these brackets that come along with the kit. Now when mounting your remote reservoir, you want to make sure that you've got clearance. So we're going to put this around the inside where it's safest. And once you get that second bolt in, don't forget to pull your first one back out and put some thread locker on that too. All right, call that good. We've got our first shock installed, so it's time to get the other side done, torque everything, call it good.
As a lot of you know, there are many benefits to adding a performance exhaust system to your ride. Increased airflow usually means better performance, cooler sound, and a lot of times improved fuel economy. And when we first rolled this thing in here, one of the first things we had to do, just like a couple of kids with a brand new toy, is fire this thing up and give it a couple bumps with the throttle. Now the exhaust that's on this Frontier is perfect for a daily driver and it's got a nice clean sound. But for what we want to do to this thing, we want a little bit more performance, all the meanwhile remaining 50 state compliant.
Beside the fact that this is a brand new truck, the way this exhaust system is designed in here actually makes it really easy to get out. I've definitely had worse times than this, pulling exhausts out.
Now our stock exhaust system had two separate pipes going off the collectors and then into the muffler. But what this system does is consolidate all that into a wide pipe. But what that does is cut down on all your restrictions on your airflow and also gives you that little bit of reverberating sound for that, you know, cool factor. Hello, friend.
And the last one.
By far, one of the best features of this exhaust is the fact that you don't need a welder. It literally just bolts into place at the factory setup. And it even comes with all the hardware you need for an easy installation, and the sound is going to give your truck a whole different personality. We got big plans to outfit our Frontier with anything and everything that you and your friends are going to need for when you're out trailgating. One of the most popular accessories a lot of you guys like to install on your rig is a roof rack. And honestly, when you consider all the benefits involved, I can kind of see why. Whether you're hauling hunting and camping gear, recovery equipment, or anything and everything you're going to need to outfit for a tailgate party, these things are super handy to have around. However, depending on what manufacturer you're working with, these things can get a bit invasive, meaning you gotta drill some holes. But luckily, the guys at Nismo have designed this setup specifically to more of a clamp style, so no drilling required. And with a few basic hand tools, you can knock this out in no time. This D41 Frontier roof rack is made from weather-resistant black powder-coated aluminum, So it's super robust, insanely light, and makes it to where it's an installation you could literally do on your own with just a few tools you got in your drawer. The no drill application utilizes door jamb clamps, giving you extremely rigid and secure vehicle mounting. With this roof and bed rack, we're going to be able to install whatever we dang well please. We're going to be throwing everything and maybe even the kitchen sink at this project once it's all said and done. This is one of my many vices. Now you may have noticed I extended our table out a little bit more. That's because you need a nice level platform while you're assembling this, because you want everything straight. That way it sits on the truck nice and straight, doesn't bounce loose down the highway when you're out trailgating about. Does it look centered?
We'll definitely have to measure it still, I think. Yeah, that's looking pretty close. We can measure it once we get all the rest of the hardware started on here.
Yeah, for what, hours worth of work?
If that. And honestly, it's not nearly as heavy as I would have expected I mean, it looks heavy duty and it feels heavy duty, but
Yeah, she's sturdy, man.
definitely not heavy. That's nice. That's always a huge plus.
Or drilling holes.
Exactly. Well, it's not quite as light as the roof rack, but definitely a lot lighter than it looks.
More awkward than heavy,
Yeah.
like me. Okay, yeah, that's about center of the wheel well there. It's about the same height as the roof rack too, a little bit shorter, but
Perfect.
looks good.
Now, just like the roof rack, this thing is heavy duty, lightweight, and it installs with no cutting or drilling directly into the factory equipped Utilitrack system right here. But like you probably guessed, this isn't the only thing that Nismo makes that can bolt into these tracks. This is a super versatile system, and the brackets to bolt things in look like this. It's just a little rectangle with a couple of carriage bolts run through it that allows you to bolt things in. Now, with as simple as this system is, if you felt like fabricating your own mounts for something you might not be able to find on the aftermarket, well, this track gives you a great base to build on.
All right, tight on your side?
Yeah, looking pretty good over here. Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're shaking the whole thing from inside of the bed. I'd say that's on there pretty good. Double check these up here real quick.
It's a pretty solid setup.
Oh yeah. Now, one of the most common things that you're gonna see on any type of off-road build is gonna be extra lighting. And with 1,001 different types of lights out there and 1,000,001 different places to put them, how do you decide which setup is right for you? At the base of a lighting setup, you've gotta remember what it is you're gonna be using your truck for. Now, in our case with this Nissan, we wanna be able to see all around this truck all the time. With that in mind, we called up the guys over at Nismo and had them send us this assortment that you see on the table in front of me. We've got these 6-inch round driving lights that are gonna go up on top of the roof rack, 4-inch round lights that are gonna sit on these Nismo brackets right at the base of the A-pillars, and these square fog lights that are gonna go out back. Now I'm gonna get this last driving light set up, then we'll start our install. Well, I hope at the end of the day this makes its predecessor, you know, the old Patrol, hope it makes that proud, because that's one of the baddest off-road rigs I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Dueling measuring tapes.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us. So I guess
Mine's metric anyway.
Oh yeah. Whoa. Oh yeah.
Heck yeah, she's starting to look like a real deal off-road truck. Let's go ahead and throw those A-pillar lights on.
Well, you got a nice big tool tray up front there.
Right, that's mighty handy. This new Nissan's got everything.
All right, nice.
Oh yeah, installed.
Looking a little bit more serious now.
That's an off-road rig if I've ever seen one. If you're the kind of person that's into this build so far, there's a pretty good chance you've got a couple of toys. Whether it's a boat, maybe a UTV, a dirt bike, all of those things require one thing, a trailer. What does every trailer need? A receiver hitch. And we got a couple other recreational activities in mind for this truck and this receiver hitch that we're going to get into a little bit later. Now the first step in this installation process is going to seem a bit unorthodox, but as per the Nissan installation manual, it is a necessary part of the process. Now on the back side of our bumper, we've got a little bit of a keyhole that's going to work as our guide to where we need to cut the bumper out in order to fit our trailer plug-in. Now I'm going to drill this thing out with a pilot hole first and then come back over with a panel saw and cut it the rest of the way out. One of the easiest techniques I find for cutting these kinds of things out is start by making your way to each of the corners and then kind of follow it along about 1/8 of an inch to the inside edge of the perimeter. This little guy just slides right into place. Perfect. And the next step is our pigtail harness, and this thing just plugs directly into the back, and then you got 2 more pigtail plug-ins on the inside of your frame. Can be any easier than that. Well, the only thing you really need to check is that you've got clean connections and tuck in your wires to make sure they don't get pinched. Could tell you a pretty good wire joke here, but I don't want to shock you. Try to stay grounded here on Music City Trucks. Appreciate the help, man. Didn't mean to wake you up from your nap.
That's all right. I'll get back to it once we're done here. I might need a nap after what we got coming next.
Right?
I got a feeling that we're gonna be really tired after that. Oh, come on.
As is life.
You got it from here?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, bud.
All right.
All right, looks like she's nice and solid there. Last thing we got to plug in is this little pigtail harness that goes up underneath that dash. Once that's in, we're done. For the icing on the cake on Project Trailgater, we're going to be installing these Yokohama Geolander MTs measuring at 275/70 R17s. It's going to give us a little more tread depth, a little more height, and give us that off-road sinister look that we've been looking for.
You might notice that the tires aren't the only upgrade that we're making here. These are brand new wheels from Nismo that are freshly designed and new on the market that can be run as regular wheels or as a true beadlock like we've got them set up here. We're also replacing our factory lug nuts with Nismo's heavy-duty open-end forged lug nuts. That's just gonna make sure that we don't have to worry about one of these things coming off.
Phase 1 is now complete, but now we're moving on to Phase 2. And almost everything that we're bolting on today could be commonly found inside your house, but not so much a pickup truck.
That's right. And as you can see in front of me here, the first modification we're making today is going to be to add our TVs. And if you look behind me, you might see that we've already got one mounted up on the truck. And that's because we wanted to make sure that we knew how we were going to mount it so that we could show you guys at home how we did it. If you've ever had to fabricate to put something in a place it's not supposed to be in, then you understand that fabrication is a very fluid process. You've got to constantly be analyzing what you're doing before, during, and after fabrication. And once you get done, you need to analyze your work and see where you can improve or what you might want to do differently if you have to do it again. Our first step here is gonna be to get our lower bolts on this rail uninstalled and loosen up the top just enough to be able to adjust it. Give it a couple of taps before we put the level back on. That is dead on right there. All we've got to do here with these tabs is get them set in place and make sure that we're hitting both of these bolt holes. Take a Sharpie, reach in there and mark them. And with these holes being that close to a flat surface, I like to take the Sharpie like this so you don't have a finger sticking over it and you can actually get all the way up against it and as close to center as possible. Now that we've got both of these marked, I'm gonna run over to the workbench real quick, drill a couple of holes, and then we can bolt them on. Another thing we're making sure to do during this entire process is add lock washers or lock nuts to everything we're installing, because the last thing we want is any of this stuff rattling loose. I've got our plates finished up and I already checked them against our mount to make sure everything lines up and it fits perfect. So now that we're done with that, we can go ahead and get the back of our case, the TV mount itself, and these reinforcing plates all installed. And this is one of the things I want to do different mounting this side. We're adding this reinforcement plate on the back of the plastic. Just kind of helps stabilize things a little bit.
Follow your lead.
Make sure we get it lined up right. Oop, almost lost a washer. All right. We're going. Oh, hold on, we gotta bring it back one. Right there.
8 billion people on this planet, and we're probably the only two knuckleheads mounting a TV to a bed rack right now.
That's a good point.
What we are doing is statistically improbable. Dare to be different.
Right. Kind of makes you wonder though, what if there is somebody else doing this?
Like in the upside down?
Well, either way, I'm sure that they're not doing it as cool as we are. That's actually pretty close. All right. Just keep that nice and even. Mind your hands and your face, not the moneymaker. Moment of truth. See if this side's any sturdier. Lower hook.
Look at that.
All right.
That's a setup right there, buddy.
Oh yeah. Here, let's get it screwed in and give it a little shakedown.
Is the TV on? Some jackwagon in the screen. Oh, never mind.
See how she sits. But the whole reason we were mocking it up again was to make sure that it was sturdier.
Earthquake test. Oh yeah, she ain't going nowhere.
It's not quite finished yet. We do still have a couple of finishing touches that we've got to make, but once we get those done, it's gonna look a little something like this.
As a lot of you know, there are many benefits to owning a pickup truck. Some of you may be blue-collar workers, or you might be into some recreational activities. Either way, you're gonna need some cargo space, and nobody knows that more than the folks over at Decked. That's why they've designed this drawer system to fit a lot of different makes and models of pickup trucks. And these things have a lot of benefits, including being lightweight, weatherproof, and installation, total breeze. All right, we got our first hole marked. Now, Decked wants you to use a drill stop on this, but if you don't have one, what you can do is take some electrical tape, or masking tape in this case, use it as a drill stop. Also included in your deck kit is what is called a plus nut tool. Basically, this kind of works like a drywall anchor, and the more you tighten that bolt down, the more it spreads the little fingers on the riv nut, so you can have a nice, solid base when you're mounting your bracket. And the easiest way to make sure that this thing is fully seated is just kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle, and if there's no play, you're good to go. The kit also comes with these little mounting brackets that you can use to anchor down with the included turnbuckles, and you can adjust the tension to ensure your deck system is properly centered and torqued down.
There's a lot of space in there.
Heck yeah. Got them stubbies?
Somewhere. Watch your head in there.
Yeah. It's like a little fort. Awfully cozy.
We can get you a couple of tarps. Yeah. What up, man?
The deck box is at 27.5, so we're there, buddy.
That's pretty close. All right, I've got this one tightened up, so it should have, if it was gonna pull over, it should have.
Don't mind me. Just working on my pose for the Men of PowerNation calendar. Mr. June.
Well, back heavy.
Oop, there we go.
Yeah, just like that. Ooh. Oh, that's smooth.
Yeah. Slides right out. Boom.
You gotta close it like a man.
That was my first problem.
Some nice little bends here, too.
It's gonna come in handy when I pulled state record walleye out of there. That's looking pretty sweet. I think we're ready for that cargo glide system now.
Sounds good. Let's do it. All right. I guess that means I gotta crawl up in there, huh?
Yep. You drew the short straw.
You know, there's a lot less room, but it's a little more comfortable. Right there. Cool.
Now, a little earlier, Eric mentioned a surprise. Well, this little setup is that surprise. This is the brand new cargo glide drawer system, new from Decked. And it's actually so new that we got our hands on one of the first ones. Stuff's not even in production yet. Now, the bottom side of our deck system has mostly been around storage, but this is more for functionality. It allows us to continue using the truck bed as a truck bed was intended to be, plus an additional 75% outward. Once Eric gets this one bolted down, we got another one just like it that goes on the other side. Now, what's cool about this cargo glide system is it bolts directly to your current deck drawer system using two big dumb brackets. And no, that's not me being facetious. That is literally what they call it in their instructions. These guys know how to market to their customers.
And with this install complete, you can see that these things are plenty sturdy, because not only can I lay on it, I can bounce on it all day with it extended, and it's not going anywhere.
Which is a good thing because we plan on putting on all kinds of goodies.
Hey, wait a minute.
For our first trailgating party.
Wait a minute. Where you going? Oh, man.
With phase 2 of Project Trailgater pretty much complete, we're going to start dipping our toes into phase 3, which is setting up our power hub for all of our utilities, including the TV, the lights, the coolers, etc. In order to do that, we need to utilize as much space in the back area here as possible for mounting our batteries and our inverters. So, back seats, gotta go. One thing we have to address is making sure that all the safety features stay intact. So while I'm pulling this back seat out, I've got to reconnect all the sensors to the buckles and straps just so it doesn't start buzzing at us when we go down the road. Got a new bucket seat for Eric's Bronco. Never been one to jump out of a perfectly good airplane or disassemble a perfectly good truck. Yet here I am. Not the kind of fishing I was hoping to do today. All right, with our back seat out of the way, we can take a step back and just kind of look at the big picture. Now, the only dilemma I see at the moment is this factory subwoofer. And we can't just pull this out because it's tied into the main harness for the navigation system. So I think what our best bet is going to be is to build a platform that just runs straight across here, just above the subwoofer, and runs all the way across back the other way. Then we can stack our batteries one by one by one, plus add an inverter, and then the fridge can be mounted on that side. It's going to be a lot of work, but burning metal just happens to be one of my favorite hobbies. Burn, baby, burn. Just gonna burn, oh, burn, baby, burn. Burn the butter down. Burn, baby, burn. Now for this, I'm using some 3/4 inch tubing. What that's going to do is give us a lot of extra strength, but it's not so heavy that it's going to compress the rear suspension. All right, got the first part of our base mocked up here. Let's give it a test fit. A little earlier, Eric mentioned fabrication being a fluid process, and this thing is a prime example of that. Now basically, I had to go back a few times and add some extra bracing, as well as these L brackets to give it a nice, raised, level playing surface. Next thing we're going to do is grab some 18 gauge sheet metal so that we can build our platforms for our batteries and our fridge. Whew. Not a flammable jacket's flammable. Anytime I'm cutting sheet metal, I don't just let the cutoff wheel dig right into it. I just kind of let it glide across until it naturally falls through. Now this gives you a better chance of a nice straight cut, as well as keeps the edges from pinching on your cutoff wheel, causing a catch and a potential safety hazard. Well, our platform for our batteries and our fridge is pretty much done. One last little detail I added was slapping in some rib nuts and some 1024 machine screws just to kind of hold those plates in place. But this also makes them removable so that we can do all of our wiring for our inverter. But for the most part, I'm gonna call this thing mission accomplished.
While Joel was working in the cab, I was over there at the table working on a little something of my own. And that is now bolted onto this decked cargo slide. Well, as you can probably tell, it is a mechanism that's going to allow a grill to fold in and out off of this cargo slide. It's going to be fully adjustable, user-friendly, and more than sturdy enough to keep itself from wiggling around when you're out on the trails. But before we talk about the final product and its cardboard counterpart here, we need to head back to the table and talk about the steps that got us here. This crude cardboard and duct tape monstrosity on the table in front of me essentially is a mock-up of the cargo slide, a frame, and a little grill mounted in the middle of it. Now the idea was for this to fold off the side of the cargo slide on a pivot point out the side, and then the grill itself would be hinged and gyroscopically stabilized in the middle so that as you folded it down, the grill would just level itself and you could get to cooking. But after getting this designed and put together and comparing it with the setup we've already got on the truck, we realized that we would more than likely run into some clearance issues with the frame and our bed rack. That led me to do a little bit more thinking, so we came up with this setup here, utilizing an arm and a bracket. And after we actually had the brackets made, we had to figure out how to get the grill itself to pivot on the ends of the arms. Then we had to machine some shouldered washers to fit on the side of the grill. The easiest way that I could think to stabilize this was to add some legs. So I built a base for it that fits perfectly around the inside, and then added some modified square tubing on it that acts as the receiver, and I also made them telescoping so that they can fit perfectly under the grill and it doesn't take up any more space than it did before. Plus, having those legs being attached to the grill itself allows you the opportunity to remove it from the pivot mechanism on the truck and set it wherever you want. The only design change that was made for this final prototype was to add this slot here on the side that allows the grill to go forward and backwards as it's stowed. Now, just to demonstrate, so as you come up, you hit that breakover point and you see those bolts start to slide down. And then once you reach the end of it, you can hold it there, set your legs, and you're ready to go. But now that we're done with that, we can look again at the actual pieces we're going to be using. And you'll notice that I did extend the arms a little bit just to allow us to get further away from our slide out. But now that we're at this point, I got to get these pulled back off and get them painted before final installation. Now that we've got all this stuff painted, the first step is to get these brackets reinstalled, utilizing these specialty nuts that came with our deck system that lock it right into these tracks. And one of the things that's nice about these is you don't have to go fishing for them after you drop them in there. You can get them started before you put them in the track and then just tighten them down afterwards. Our next step is to get the arms put on that the grill is actually going to be mounted to. For this, I'm using some 7/16 hardware and a mechanical lock nut so that we can adjust the tension on how these move. Now that I've got this nut snugged down, I can begin to adjust the tension. And we're just gonna do that by testing the movement of this and see how stiff it is. Now, because there's gonna be weight on it, we're gonna have to tighten it up a little bit more than we would if it was just moving on its own. So we're gonna get it tight just to where it'll hold itself up without falling down. Just like that. Perfect. All right, now comes the fun part of getting our grill up here and installed. The last step here is going to be to get our cooktop installed, see how this thing looks all put together. With all that finished up, we can go ahead and close the lid on this install. I do see a couple of adjustments I'd like to make, but all in all, this is exactly what I was going for.
Tell you what, this thing has already made one heck of a decent transformation. Well, we got a few more tricks up our sleeve before we wrap this thing up. Tell you what, buddy, you got a patent that thing. That's pretty slick.
I wonder if we got any hot dogs in the break room.
More of a tapioca guy.
It's easy to dream up a project with tons of gadgets, but to make that happen, you're going to run into some roadblocks. And we've teamed up with Dakota Lithium here to provide the answers to those questions to make all of these components work smoothly together. So let's look at what we have here to make it all work. We're going to install 3 of these Dakota Lithium batteries into our truck. That way, that gives us enough power all day long to do things like watch the TV. We've got a refrigerator, we've got sound bars, we've got coolers. Now, these batteries, they don't last forever. They're going to lose charge. Because of that, we're going to have different ways to charge these batteries. First one here is our DC to DC charger. This particular unit will allow us to run the gas engine and the alternator on the truck when it's running. Say we're traveling to a site or whatnot, it's going to be charging our battery system there. We also have another option. We've got solar panels. The solar panels connect to this little dashboard right here that takes that energy, converts it to charge our battery system. But we need to convert it to AC for our TVs and the sound bar as well. That's where this little inverter comes into play. We run this from one side to the battery and allows us to plug in our TVs and other components right here to give us power for those. This battery system is going to provide enough juice for our specific components, but if there's other things that you need too for all your electrical demands, this would work as well. Enough about the details. Let's burn some energy and get this stuff installed. So we've got our platform made inside the back seat here, and now we've got to put all of our batteries in. Now the batteries are just float around, but we've got our custom bracket that we made here. It looks kind of medieval, but this bracket here is going to hold our batteries in place. First thing we got to do is mark it out, square it up, get our holes drilled, and then we can get our batteries in and attached. Little brackets here. We'll go ahead and mark our locations for our holes. Now we'll move this out of the way so we can access it and get our holes drilled. Let's see if she fits. Back over, a couple of screws. In. Here we go. Got our screws in. Now we'll get our batteries in. We know we've trial fitted it. We'll get our batteries in and get it set up for good. Got our battery set in, now we just got to button up our bracket. Get some nuts on the back side of that, and we're good to go. All right, so we've got all of our components finalized. We've got it mounted up. We've got our solar charger there that manages the power from our solar panels on the roof. The one in the middle there, that is our power box for, we can hook up to our power from the house or your garage where you're converting your home AC to this and to charge the batteries when it's parked. And then this blue one, once again, that's our DC to DC charger. So one side of this is hooked up to the battery underneath the hood. So when the truck is running, the alternator is charging, that power is coming back here to charge these batteries as well. So we've got all that mounted up, wired up, all of our lights, everything works. Now we're just ready for the fridge.
All right. Well, the battery system's looking pretty good.
Yep,
Man,
almost done.
Like a glove.
Can't get any closer than that.
Look at that. All right, well, I guess now it's just got to get plugged in and strapped down, right?
Yep. Good to go.
Project Trailgater is almost ready for its first adventure. But before we roll out the door, we've got a few more essentials we need to load up here in the bed, like this ultimate 39-piece utensil set from Overland Vehicle System. Once the food starts flying off the grill, this little box here has everything we need to eat on and with and not leave any waste behind. And we're gonna be putting this and a few other cool things on our decked cargo glide system because this truck is built to bring the party everywhere. So we gotta make sure that everything is secure before we hit the trail. Now, in order to get everything secured down, we're gonna be using these D-rings that came with the cargo glide system from Deck. And it's the same specialty nut that we used to secure our grill bracket on the front. Now we get this dropped on the slide. In order to make sure that this stuff's actually secure, we're gonna be using this Dometic tie-down kit. Now, this is a complete kit that comes with its own D-rings that you can mount just about anywhere, but since we're using the D-rings on the slide-outs, we're gonna save those in case we need them anywhere else. Next up, we've got this CFX3 powered cooler from Dometic. And really, for the size of it, it's pretty light. And yeah, you heard me right. I said powered. So no matter what, you're gonna be able to keep all your food, drinks, and anything else you might not be able to fit in the fridge in here, and it'll stay cool no matter what. This powered cooler is a 12-volt portable fridge that can reach temperatures as low as -7 degrees Fahrenheit, all while using less juice than a 60-watt light bulb. It even has its own app where you can monitor and control the cooler's temperature from the palm of your hand. For this, we're gonna be using the same D-ring and strap setup. Now, these straps are a little too short to cover this whole thing by themselves, but thankfully we can just bridge 2 of them together. It'll work just fine. Come over here and tighten this one. All right, well, that ain't going nowhere. Now that we've got our cooler strapped down, we've got to get some power run to it. The guys at Dometic designed this to run off of AC or DC power, so we could run it through an inverter or off of a 12-volt socket. Initially, we thought about running it off the same inverter as the TVs and the soundbar, but to save a plug, we figured that we're going to utilize the DC feature for this instead. Now, Dometic does offer a 2-port 12-volt power socket that you can mount just about anywhere, and you can hardwire it into a battery, through a switch, or however you want to do it. But that still keeps it leashed to the bed of the truck. So we're not gonna be running this for this application. Now, the third option that we thought of, and the one that we're actually gonna be using, is to utilize a Dakota Lithium power box. We've got the Power Box 10 here, and believe it or not, this little ammo can will power that cooler and plenty of other things. There's a Dakota Lithium battery inside. It's all internal, switch controlled. You've got your 12-volt socket right there, and that's what we would be using to run that cooler. But then we thought that probably won't last for an entire weekend of partying. So we're gonna save that for some of the smaller stuff and utilize the Dakota Lithium PowerBox 60 to run the cooler. Now, utilizing a power box gives us a few advantages. The biggest being that we can carry that and the cooler anywhere around our campsite and have everything stay nice and cold. So we're just gonna add in a couple more D-rings, get that strapped down, call this done.
Now that we've got the refrigerator installed, we have the batteries installed, and we showed you the solar charger module inside, well, this is the other part to it. These are the actual solar panels themselves. We've got them laid out on top of the roof here. This system will help maintain our batteries as we're going about our day. This system, it will help provide an additional charge. This is from Dakota Lithium. This is their Solar 180, so it's a 180-watt system. Now, this is not a permanent install. This has flexibility to where you can move it wherever you need for your application, whether it's the roof, the bed, we have it here. If you find that this one system is not enough power, you can actually add a second set of solar panels as well, and they can tie in together to that same charger. Now, all that we have to do with this is fold it back up, and you can safely store it inside the vehicle as you go down the road. We're ready to go. One of the last pieces for our Nissan Project Trailgater are these step bars. Now, these step bars are going to provide easier access to get into the truck, but also they're rugged enough to provide protection along our rocker panel there. So let me show you how easy these are to install. Now it's time to go under. Whee! There's already studs installed on the rockers. So these brackets merely go on the stud, apply a couple of nuts, tighten them down, and we can move on to the bar. Literally all I have to install this is a ratchet with a 12mm socket. That's how easy these are. think what we'll do here is we'll leave all these loose and then get our step put on, and then we can tighten them back up. One more bracket here. All these parts and pieces, the hardware, brackets, step, all provided in the Nissan kit. Everything you need to get this project whipped out. All right, final piece is the step bar. Before I tighten it down, let's just take a step back and make sure everything looks level, looks square, and then we'll tighten it up and be ready to go.
With the power system finished up, storage figured out, the TVs and grill and everything else installed, Project Trailgater is almost ready to take on its first adventure. But before we do that, we've got a few more things here we want to throw in just to make sure that we've got everything we're going to need to have a successful party. Now you're probably wondering exactly what all of this is, and I kind of thought the same thing when I first found it. But essentially what this system is a bunch of accessories that you can attach to the side of a truck or a car or a boat or anything else with a smooth, flat surface using suction cups. One reason we decided to use these instead of some of the other options that are out there is for ease of setup and teardown. Another thing we ordered with this setup is this trash bag holder. Because one thing we want to make sure we're doing is leaving no trace anywhere that we bring this truck. Now what I'm putting on now is actually our sink. And I know it probably just looks like another table with a big old hole in the middle, but give me a second and I'll show you what I mean. Now with that popped in there, this actually has a drain that you can pop in and out, so it does work like a regular sink. You can wash your vegetables, dishes, anything else you need to do. And the last thing I'm gonna attach over on this side is gonna be this paper towel holder. And as you can see, now that we've got all this stuff set up, it's pretty much an entire kitchenette going from the fridge in the back seat to your table with the extension, your trash bag and paper towel holders, and your sink. And one of the best things about this stuff being attached with suction cups is it makes setup and teardown super easy. Teardown's what I'm gonna work on right now, get all this stuff and a few other goodies loaded up into our deck system, and then we're finally ready to get this thing out on the road. Well, today is finally the day that we've got Project Trailgater out here in the beautiful woods of southern Middle Tennessee, where we are gonna put all of these gadgets to the test.
Yeah, we couldn't have picked a better day to test out this Nissan Frontier to see if it is the actual ultimate tailgater.
Gotta make sure we don't leave anything behind.
Get our table set up over here, right about the middle. Perfect. Check this one out. Looks like we got a little lock down here. That's always good. Setting up the campsite. Presto, extendo. Fixins right there.
Ready to set your fire pit up over there?
Oh man.
That's a pretty nice little fire pit from Front Runner. It's a nice table too.
Yeah, look at that.
How this goes together. We're two relatively smart dudes. I think we can figure this out. At least I really hope so. Oh. I think it's something like that. Yeah. There we go. Oh yeah, much easier.
We'll go with that.
See, teamwork.
We'll figure it out.
We'll get this thing down out of here. These cargo glides make this kind of stuff way easier.
Way easy.
All right. Grilling time?
Yeah.
Oh. There we go. Slide it right on down there. All right. It's a lot easier to set up in soft ground. You can use different angles. All right. Let this guy warm up for a minute.
This Starlink out so we can have the old interweb. This thing's pretty cool. It's all about the base. Cord.
Oh, yeah.
Now these cases were designed to protect the TVs as they were going down the road. Let's see how they fared. Hey, it's still there. Perfect. We even added some extra foam here on the corners to protect that from bouncing up and down the road or the trails.
I think we're just about ready to start cooking. You want to get the table set and get that TV going?
Yeah, it sounds good. Hurry up with them hot dogs. I'm getting hungry.
Hey, I'm going.
Burgers. Yes. Hot dogs and the old buns there. Good to go. Kill it. I want mine done.
Oh. Not even a little bit of paint?
It can't be mooing.
Oh, man. Killing me, Mike.
Roll some dogs on here.
Dogs are good. Oh, yeah. Get them in that burger grease.
Oh, yeah. Get a little extra kick to them. All right.
Oh, sit down for a minute.
I tell you what, it's time to rest with all that work on that truck. I mean, we've done so much from the custom wrap, the Nismo lights, the roof rack, the bed rack, all that, turned out really well.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, of course, everything else, too. We've got the grill, the fridge, all the deck stuff in the bed that made it possible to do all this.
Yeah, you did a great job on that grill.
Thanks.
Man, speaking of that grill, these burgers turned out good. It's time to dig in.
Oh, yeah. Usually the fruits of our labor aren't quite this tasty.